Today, I'm not just making one cranberry recipe, but two cranberry recipes, only on Cindy Certified Recipes.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today on Cindy Certified Recipes. We're going to get going on the first of my two cranberry recipes, and actually this is a raw relish. And so we're going to get started with just cutting up a couple oranges, and as you can see by the size here in my hand, these are not very big. They're actually a regular navel orange, but they're pretty small. So I'm going to be using two of these, and actually you could use two tangerines, adds a totally different flavor. But today I'm going to be using these. Normally I would just use one bigger orange. So we're going to get going, and I just like to chop these up into quarters and then into halves. Take off that little green stem and toss them in I call this my beast, my food processor. It only comes out for big jobs or jobs that need to be made easier. And see that navel orange, it has the navel. It doesn't really show too much there, but it has that. I like to cut that little dude out. Here again, that little area down there, depending on the type of orange you get. And even though I'm using a food processor, you're like, why are you cutting the oranges? Technically, you could throw it in there whole, especially tangerine. But I find when I make this relish that the oranges chop up a little differently than the cranberries. So I like to cut them up a little bit and get them on the smaller side before I toss them in. Okie doke, we got all those oranges in there. And the next thing you're gonna do is just add in one bag of cranberries. And this is a 12-ounce bag of cranberries, and they've been washed, dried, and I like to sort through them and pick out any smushed ones or bad ones. And then we're just gonna pour those in. Like so. And this is a 3/4 cup of sugar. It's actually a 3/4 cup measurement, which I like. I don't have to do, 1/4 3 times. So we're just going to pour 3/4 cup of white sugar in there. And a lot of this actually is to taste. Once you've done it or once you make it, you can always add more sugar, more of anything, less of anything. This is half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And one of the things I really like to use on the relish is vanilla paste. And a lot of people don't use vanilla at all in their cranberry sauce or relish, but I really think it adds that little extra something. And the reason I like the paste is because there's cane sugar in here, whereas normally vanilla extract has alcohol, which once you blend it with other things, you don't notice. But in the relish, I think it makes it a little bitter. And so for this purpose, I like to use the paste. And we're going to do 1 teaspoon of this paste. And it says paste, but it's more liquidy. See that? And we're just going to pour that in there. It's a little sticky because of the cane sugar. There we go. Put that lid back on because I will knock it over. And now we got all those ingredients in there like that, and I'm going to go get what I call the belly of the beast, which is the motor, and we'll be right back. I got my food processor all set up here, and now all there is to do is pulse it, and this is just going to be to your desired consistency. So let's get pulsing. Let's take a peek. I think that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go get a bowl, and we're going to scoop that out and you'll take a peek. Seriously, this is one of the easiest cranberry dishes you can make, and it's super quick, it's super delicious, and it lasts easily a week. But you do need to put it in the fridge and let all those flavors kind of marry and combine. So we're just gonna pour that in a bowl. A container. It's absolutely gorgeous, and you can't believe the smell. That's good. And then just, I don't like to smush it down too much. I like it to look chunky. And that's how it's going to look. And I'm going to cover that with saran wrap. And that's going to go in the fridge. I like to put it in the fridge at least overnight. But you can make this way in advance of any event. And it's so good, you guys. So now, after I get this in the fridge, we're going to get on with my second cranberry recipe. We are back to do recipe number 2, cranberry recipe number 2, and this is the cooked version. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by cutting the skins off of a few oranges. And like I said before in the other recipe, these oranges are so small. These are navel oranges, believe it or not. But what we're going to do is we're just going to use a potato peeler and start just trimming that skin off. And you'll see how well that works. See that? I mean, that works really well. And so we're going to do like probably 3 of these tiny oranges like that. And I just want to mention something here. And while I'm doing this, and everyone says, "Oh, don't get the pith, it's bitter." You know what? I think the pith is awesome. I love eating the pith, especially on oranges that have a thicker skin. And actually, if you look it up online, the pith has a lot of vitamins and minerals. So I think it gets a bad rap, personally. But actually, the oils of the orange are just in the skin. And that's what we're after today. So just my little thing on the pith there. Don't be like, "Oh my God, I got pith." So we're just gonna be slicing up these skins, and then when I have enough of these, I'm gonna be slicing these into little thin strips, and that's what's gonna go into our cranberry sauce. All right, that's probably good right there. Show you. I could probably hold it in one hand, but I'll show you in 2 hands. Those are the peels, and now I'm gonna be slicing these into little strips, and if they're long like that one, or even longer, I like to cut them in half. And these actually kind of caramelize in your cranberry sauce, and when I'm eating that cranberry sauce, I'm actually gonna picking out the peels because I love to eat them on their own, let alone in the sauce. So we're gonna start slicing these, and what I do is I just put them like that, and I just slice them into little strips. If for whatever reason you feel like you don't want the little strips like this, you can just zest the orange in there, but like I'm telling you, I think once you've had this cranberry sauce with these strips and they caramelize and candy eyes in there, it's like, those are really yummy. So I'm gonna get going on just cutting all these orange peels into tiny little strips. Alrighty. See how pretty those are? And it smells heavenly, I'll tell you. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna take this is 2 bags, washed, dried, picked through cranberries, and we're just gonna pour that in a decent sized saucepan here. And what I'm gonna do next is juice my oranges, and If I had 2 big oranges, that's what all I would use if I knew they were juicy. And like I said, these guys are super small, so I'm gonna be juicing 4 of these little guys. So I'm just gonna cut them in half and use my little reamer and juice them right into the pot. Now, the amount of liquid you have in the pot will determine the sauciness of your sauce. Now, cranberries and orange peels, citrus peels actually, are a couple of the fruits out there that have some of the highest pectin levels. And so the least amount of liquid in there, it'll really gel up in the fridge. And you put a little more liquid in there, it'll be a little saucier. So it just depends how you like it. I kind of like it more on the gelled side than the super liquidy side. But pectin is also super good for you. You gotta look it up because I mean, there's like a ton of benefits pectin has for you. And here you're getting 2 things that has one of the highest levels of pectin in it. So healthy cranberry sauce. And you know, I'm just gonna mention on a side note, you guys, that stuff in a can that we all grew up with, I know you're familiar. The ingredients in there is cranberries, of course, high fructose corn syrup, comma, corn syrup, and water. Need I say more? There we go. And there's all that pulpy stuff in there too. It just makes even better. So now we're gonna put all of our little sliced up orange peels in there. And now, this honey. I only buy honey from 2 places, and they're both in Colorado, and I don't even live in Colorado. But I used to live in Colorado, but to me, these 2 places have some of the best honeys I've ever tried. And after living in Florida and a lot of other places, I've tried a lot of honey, and a lot of people think, oh, honey's honey. No, no, no. There are so many flavor profiles of honey, and to me, this one particular place where this honey comes from is called Honeyville, and they're in Durango, and I have no sponsorship or anything from them, but I just want you guys to know in case you're looking for the same exact honey I'm using, or you want to just Google a place and check out their stuff because they really have great stuff. So this is going to be 2 cups of their mountain wildflower honey, and it's excellent. And to me, honey in the cooked version is the ultimate flavor profile. It just gives it a texture and a taste that you can't get with sugar, like granulated sugar. Forget it. And by the way, just as another shout out, the other place that I like to buy my honey, and I believe I've mentioned it in other videos, it's called The Beekeeper, and they're in Salida, Colorado. Totally different flavor profile of their honey that I like to purchase. In goes that. And now, remember I used that vanilla paste in the relish. I'm using that again, but 2 teaspoons of it in the cooked version. Okie doke. And rather than picking cloves out of the finished product, this is going to be a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, and it gives it that flavor that people will be going, what is that? I love that. What is that? That's what that is. And instead of ground cinnamon, we are using cinnamon sticks. And depending on the size, I probably want 3 of, these are the big ones. So I want probably 3 sticks in there. And I love it when you can see that when it came from the tree, that you can see the knot of the tree in the piece that they scraped off. So we're going to stick that down in there. This is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to take that over to the stove, and we're going to put that on medium heat. And I'm going to stir it. And we're going to get that going. That's going to simmer once it gets going about 20 minutes. We have our pot over here on the stove, and I'm going to turn that on to medium. Here's medium. And we're going to let that sit a bit until we see it start simmering, and those berries will start popping. And we'll be right back when all that action starts to happen. Things are starting to simmer up the sides here, and I can hear the berries on the bottom starting to pop. And so we're going to give this a good stir. And the berries too will give off liquid. But don't worry about it. You're thinking, oh wow, that looks really liquidy, but believe me, it's all gonna simmer down. And I do like to stir this often, but now that I've given it that good stir, it's gonna sit a little bit and cook. And if I can capture some of the popping sounds on my microphone, I will do that, but it's really kind of fun to listen to. And I gotta say, you know, I like cranberry sauce different times of the year when I can't get fresh. And I have tried the frozen, and I have a very particular palate. And I really didn't like the frozen cranberries, and they didn't pop, and the color's off. And so to me, it was a disappointment, just putting it out there. So I like to make a lot of cranberry sauce this time of year when I can get fresh stuff. It's far superior. This is the consistency approximately halfway through the cooking process. And you can see just this gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous cranberry color. But it's still got a ways to go, and I wanted to show you the bubbling consistency. This is how it should be. You don't want it super fast, you don't want it super slow. So it still has a few more minutes to go, and we'll be back. Our cranberry sauce has reached the stage where I'm going to be shortly here turning off the stove and letting it cool in place about an hour before I put it either in a bowl and cover it, or in a storage container, which will have a lid on it. But I wanted you to see, I call it the breathing stage, because you can kind of see it lifting, almost like, you know, you'd see a mud pot in Yosemite or something like that. Yellowstone, the other Y National Park. But this is the consistency you are looking for. All that pectin is activated, and you got that texture, yet beautiful color, and you just, you know, someone definitely needs to invent smell-o-vision. I'm telling you, it smells wonderful. So, like I said, I'm going to turn off that heat right now, and that is going to rest here an hour to cool down, and we'll be back with that. Our sauce is done, and it's cooled on the stove. It has not been in the fridge, but I wanted to show you, it is just glorious, you guys. Look at this. Look at that. So I'm going to put it in my dish here. I mean, who wouldn't want this on their holiday table? So I'm just going to scoop that in there. And when you put this in the fridge, it'll gel up even more. So you could actually mold it, like put it in a mold if you would like, and then you dip the mold halfway in hot water to unmold it. Or when it comes out of the fridge and it's all gelled up, just chop it up a little bit with the spoon. Make it all nice and chunky like this. You can see that pectin was definitely activated. So yummy. I can hardly wait to eat it. It's just, you guys, it's beautiful. It's tasty. Either way you do it, the raw version versus the cooked version, this will not gel up because it hasn't been cooked. Different spoon. I really can't tell you what my favorite is. I do these every year, and both of them go just as quick. But it's really nice to have the option of the raw versus the cooked, and you can decide which one you like. And it goes with so many things. Make twice as much because you're gonna go through it, I'm telling you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends. Certainly don't forget to check out my playlists. I have a dedicated holiday playlist if you're interested in that. You're bound to find a lot more favorite recipes that you're gonna love. And we'll see you next time on Cindy Certified Recipes.
If it's time tested, top-notch ingredients, and the talk of the table, it's Cindy Certified.